mass shootings in Virginia mobilized the fight for change.
It is unforgivable to turn our schools, our churches and synagogues and mosques into battlefields.
The newly introduced gun safety laws fired up a gun rights movement.
They come for our throats. We need to fight back fire with fire, just like he said.
If we keep going down the path we're going down in Virginia, if assault weapons are banned, that's tyrannical. And our state motto is Sic Semper Tyrannis. Loosely translated would be death to tyrants.
The Second Amendment can be regulated. Regulations have been recognized as being constitutional.
Now a heavily armed resistance is growing fast.
Threat!
Kurt, the instructor, is saying threat, threat.
Threat!
Who that threat is, I'm not quite sure.
And compromise is not an option.
Do you see any room for gun legislation?
No.
Registration?
It's an infringement.
No room at all?
No room at all.
Whatever their passion is, whether they're a gun collector, whether they're a long-range shooter, whether they're a hunter, so many people are passionate about protecting themselves, protecting the Second Amendment enshrined in our Constitution. It's great to see this many people come out.
Hunter Allen is a member of the Virginia Citizens Defense League, a hardline gun group focused on opposing gun legislation.
I go to Richmond, Virginia, to our capital, to the legislative building there. We go in, we break into teams, and then we talk about the things that are important to us.
Come on in.
Awesome. Come on over here and we'll do a little brief. So this is Team 8, everybody, so thanks for being a part of our team. We have an 8:30 appointment, 9, 8:45, 9. Every 15 minutes we have appointments. So we just need to make sure that we hit all of them. Hi, Delegate.
Gentlemen, you guys doing fine today?
Good. I'm Hunter Allen. I'm actually one of your constituents, Big Island, Virginia.
Big Island,
Big
great
Island.
place to be from. Yeah, God bless you.
We have all of our support bills that we support, all the ones that we oppose, strongly oppose. 91 counties out of 95.
I appreciate what Phil and the rest of you guys are doing, so we're with you 100%, brother.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Definitely go after the Democrats. They really need to see, hear, and feel the heat from us, because this is a basic attack on our freedoms.
Martin Luther King Jr. Day draws a large gathering of advocates and lobbyists for all issues before the legislature. This year is dominated by those opposing a long list of proposals for new gun laws.
It's pressure during legislative season, and it's pain during election season. That's how we get it done.
The event typically draws a crowd of several hundred. But this year, after Democrats swept the state house, police estimate Lobby Day drew 22,000 attendees.
We're normal people. On my team, we had a trauma surgeon. We had 4 lawyers. We had 3 businessmen. We had 2 retired people who were previous business owners. These are people from all walks of life.
I'm almost always armed. I'm almost always carrying. I've been to Lobby Day every year since I moved to Virginia in 2008.
Gun rights activists like Kurt Feigl are part of a growing movement that rejects any restrictions on guns and ownership that the recently elected Democrats have vowed to enact.
Well, I'm a firearms instructor. I enjoy teaching people how to shoot. I enjoy shooting. I do competitive shooting, both with semi-automatic rifles, with pistols, with bolt-action rifles for long-range shooting. I enjoy firearms. But beyond that, the Second Amendment isn't about hunting and it's not about self-defense. It's about shooting tyrants in the face. That's what it's for.
The new Democratic majority proposed several new gun restrictions, so-called red flag laws, allowing guns to be confiscated from individuals deemed a risk to themselves or others. Universal background checks for private gun sales, which would close a long-standing loophole, restricting gun sales to 1 gun per month for state residents, and a ban on semi-automatic firearms and magazines that could hold more than 12 rounds of ammunition. But the passion on display on Rally Day is more than just about any single regulation. Any proposed reform is an assault that cuts deep, and it's awakened an opposition. Much of it rooted in rural towns across the state.
Hey!
Welcome to my home, huh?
Wow, you told me you had a lot of acreage. This is amazing.
Well, it's not my home anymore, but this is where I grew up. And I mean, amazing place here. We've got 10 acres right in town. Super cool house, built in 1779. So much history here.
1779.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's go around back here. I'm gonna show you the backyard.
This is it's a different life. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
We don't get this in LA.
No. Yeah, no, it's nice.
The capital city of Richmond, Virginia has nearly 4,000 residents per square mile. Here in Bedford County, it's just 104.
I remember going to high school here. You even got an excused absence for deer season, right?
Wow.
So, I mean, it's like part of the school system, right?
Who wouldn't want to hunt then?
Right, exactly, right? In PE class, that was the thing, right? If you didn't have PE, you had health, but then also the PE teacher taught gun safety. So you took a whole 3 weeks or 4 weeks on gun safety. At the end of that, you got a card which then would allow you to go get your hunting license because you went through the gun safety program. So like everybody would take that. So I think that that's what you have to consider, right, is thinking about it when you think of Virginia. The rural area it's part of life, you know, it's just a part of life.
In addition to his gun rights activism, Hunter is also a professional cycling coach, a career that has spanned the globe.
Do you think that people who live in rural areas have a different definition or interpretation of freedom and a different relationship with government than we do in the cities?
You know, I've been very fortunate, Adam. I've been able to travel around the world. I've been able to travel all over the United States in my job. Been in lots and lots of cities. But I think that the culture in a rural area is very different than in an urban setting.
So when the gun control activists say, look, our goal isn't to disarm you, take away your guns, take away your Second Amendment rights, you just don't believe it?
No, I don't believe that at all.
What do you think the agenda is, ultimately?
I think the agenda ultimately is to disarm the populace, to create a populace that is easily controllable by our government.
Making this a politically and morally compelling issue at the polls has really made a difference. I think that voters across the Commonwealth got tired of hearing more and more and more gun violence in their own communities and mass shootings across the country.
Lori Haas works for one of the gun reform organizations that's pushing the bundle of regulations proposed by the state's new Democrat-led majority.
At the beginning of 2020, the annual lobby day attracted quite a crowd. I was there. You had gun supporters, Second Amendment absolutists, feeling as though they were up against the ropes, thanks to your efforts.
I came to understand more and more and more about the laws and which ones needed to be changed or fixed. And I took advantage of, the platform that I was given to speak up on behalf of those who couldn't. The Second Amendment can be regulated. Regulations have been recognized by the courts, for decades as being compatible with the Second Amendment and constitutional.
Like many in the gun reform advocacy community, Lori experienced the dangers of unfettered access to firearms firsthand.
My daughter Emily was injured at Virginia Tech on the morning of April 16th. 2 bullets grazed the back of her head while she huddled on the floor with her classmates, on the phone to police, pleading for help.
I couldn't imagine in a million years if Emily had been shot and killed. I just couldn't wrap my brain around that, and saw so much anguish and so much heartache and pain that's indescribable.
Lori's daughter Emily survived the mass shooting at Virginia Tech in 2007, but in total, 32 people were killed.
A well-placed law enforcement source tells CBS News the weapons used in the massacre were a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and a .22 caliber pistol. Both are readily available in gun shops across the United States and particularly accessible in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Obviously, Emily was very lucky.
Yes.
I mean, she took on massive risk in holding on to that phone.
Yeah.
How did this incident change the trajectory of your life and your career?
No one can describe the aftermath of a mass shooting. Nobody can prepare you for it. One of the things for some people, you know, who are this close to a tragedy of this magnitude is information. You know, it helps to learn what happened, how it happened, where it happened, who it happened, how long did it take. A victim services person described it as being in a well, and you know, more information you get, you're able to climb out of that well. And we learned about the porous laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia and at the federal level. We have a background check system. It's not applied to everybody, and not all the records are in the system. There are categories of people who are prohibited, but if you're recorded in the system and you have a background check, it doesn't do any good. Firearm deaths are preventable. Think about that. They're preventable. They're a public health epidemic across this country, and we spend too little time, too little research, too few resources on it. We started speaking up and saying, why is this so? And let's fix it.
Between the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007 and 2020, the number of mental health records in the FBI's national background check system increased by 1,123%. But the records of many individuals prohibited from possessing firearms are still missing from the database.
What I was listening to from the gun lobby, it just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I didn't grow up in the States, obviously, so you know, I have a bit of a different opinion about things, but it didn't make the slightest bit of sense to be trying to weaken laws when you've already realized that the laws were not strong enough to protect people.
Andy Goddard has been working with Lori Haas on gun reform since his son Colin, Emily Haas's classmate, was also nearly killed in the shooting at Virginia Tech.
You and many other families are reeling from this horrific shooting, and from day one, you're seeing resistance to making any changes to prevent something like this from happening again.
Absolutely.
Why is it that this is such an intractable issue that seems, this only happens in the US?
Guns have been put on a place in this country that they don't exist on in any other country. They've almost been placed on an altar. It's almost like a religious thing that you worship the ability to have these weapons. And I'm not anti-gun. It would be nice if there were a lot less of them, but I don't think it's necessary for them to disappear because there are decent uses for guns. So I'm not sort of a rabid, everybody has to give up their guns person, but we have an unhealthy attitude towards guns.
In 2017, the number of guns in the US averaged more than 1 gun per person. But less than half of Americans report living in a household with a gun, suggesting that many gun owners have multiple firearms.
Nice. Yeah, look at this place. This place is packed. Tons of cars here. Got a 30-30 lever action here that was handed down from me, my grandfather to me when he passed away. He gave that to me. And then this is Jack's AR-15 here.
How many guns did you say that you own?
You know, I don't tell my wife. My wife's not going to see this, is she? Probably in the 60-something range or so. So I think in that range. But I mean, it's just like anything else, right? I mean, I've got like 20 bicycles, you know, so it's the same thing, right? There's all kinds of guns for different uses. Boys like their toys. I was 5 probably when, you know, when I started going around and walking in the woods with you when you were hunting. You didn't let me carry a gun, and then you let me carry a gun, an unloaded gun. Right,
for a couple of years.
Using out in the field or out in the woods or wherever, we learned how to shoot and handle the gun, and gun safety was a priority. And that's the same thing that I received from my father.
Hunter's 73-year-old father grew up with guns, but today is the first time he's firing an AR-15.
So on this AR-15, I have your mag releases right here.
Okay.
And the safety is on your left side. And then to open up your bolt here, it's already open, and this is the action. So you bring it back, and then
that chamber's around.
And that chamber's around right there.
Right there. Okay. Well, it's a heavy gun.
Yeah, heavy gun.
Heavy gun. So you start here. It's in fire. Put it in safe.
Yep.
It's in safe.
Yeah.
It's in safe now. Put it here.
Bring it back. So that's your action. Yep.
Now, what's that on the end of the barrel, Jack?
So this is a suppressor that can be just screwed on via another attachment onto the barrel, and that just makes the gun much more quiet. And actually, you still wear ear protection, but it's almost not required with an AR-15.
Okay. One of my hunting rifles that we use to hunt elk with, I have a suppressor for it because you're trying to listen, you're trying to be super quiet, you need to hear everything, so you never wear hearing protection when you're hunting. So again, save your hearing, protect your hearing.
Suppressors are sometimes referred to as silencers and are also frequently listed in proposed gun bans.
So the range is hot. Range is hot. Movie industry has perpetuated this myth. There's no sound.
Yeah, man, you scared all kinds of birds out there.
That is so not the real world. These are basically mufflers for your gun because there's nothing that makes it silent.
I'm ready. Fire when ready.
These suppressors are highly regulated.
Hit the burn.
I have to get an FBI background check. I have to go to the sheriff. I have to get my fingerprints of both hands. I send all of that information off with passport photos to the ATF. There are laws that apply in urban settings.
Shot the target on the left.
That have no bearing whatsoever on my life in rural Virginia. There are laws that may have been passed in rural Virginia that have no bearing whatsoever of the people who live in an urban setting. And that's a challenge for, I think, all states when you think about it, because we have these urban centers and we have these very rural areas.
There you go. How about that?
This is something that we do together. Jack started shooting when he was 5. He got a BB gun and then a pellet gun.
I just remember, like, every weekend when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, in the fall, I'd look forward to going hunting with my dad, you know? That's what we did on the weekends.
I don't know anyone who's been the victim of a mass shooting. You haven't either. And if introducing new laws is the only remedy so that, Hunter, you don't know what it feels like, is that something that you can understand?
Of course, I can absolutely understand that. I mean, I think that's part of the thing, right? You have to understand nobody wants mass shootings.
Why would the addition of some laws, aside from maybe inconveniencing, why would it impact you? If you're doing everything right, why take such objection to laws and regulations that, again, will probably inconvenience you, but not much else?
You know, to me, that incrementalism is something that we have to be, you know, concerned about in all aspects of our life, right? Then all of a sudden, that becomes, well, we ban that, we'll ban this, and we'll ban this, and we'll ban this, and we'll ban this. And next thing you know, you're sitting here and you're like, well, you're not allowed to have any guns.
One of the NRA's most brilliant arguments that they put forward is the slippery slope to disarmament, that one gun control law can lead to another and will lead to another and to another until they finally come and take your guns.
Patrick Charles is a historian, legal analyst, and former Marine who has written extensively on the Second Amendment.
And today, even the cover is kind of similar in most American Rifleman magazines. You'll find a firearm on the cover on most of them. Now you also see on the cover things like, you know, the Democrats are going to take your guns, or something to the effect of, you know, the gun confiscation's coming.
The American Rifleman is a magazine published by the National Rifle Association.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what ultimately happens is, as guns evolve and technology changes and society's demographics changes, people move to different areas, you're going to need new laws on any subject, including firearms. So there will be new gun controls, which in turn heightens their fears that there will be another one and another one until they're disarmed.
My husband owns long guns. He owns some rifles that were his grandfather's. And they're hardware, they're durable. He doesn't need any more, he doesn't want to buy any more. But I learned that the gun lobby wants to sell more. Because they're hardware, because they're durable, they have to find new ways constantly to sell more firearms, keep that, you know, gun manufacturers happy, keep that money coming in the door.
A report by the Violence Policy Center revealed the NRA received up to $60 million from the gun industry between 2005 and 2013.
You know, for years, the gun lobby has been throwing around its money, its political weight, to block widely supported and common sense gun safety measures. And it hasn't been easy. It's been hard, it's taken a long time, but at least in Virginia, we are winning these battles now.
This protest has been happening in front of the NRA building every month since 2013, and this is a collection of some of the family members of victims as well as some survivors coming out in front of NRA headquarters, and the pandemic has not slowed down their activism at all. We've reached out to the NRA for an interview, but they have not responded.
On top of all of the lies at the root of Wayne LaPierre and the NRA's disinformation campaign, selling a dystopic version of a universe in which the only path to safety is with a gun. It's nice to have all of this support.
Many of the new regulations proposed earlier in the year passed. The ban on semi-automatic firearms was shelved, but Lori and her fellow activists aren't giving up hope.
You've been at this for 13 years, and you turned tragedy into dedication and commitment. I remember what the atmosphere was like. I know you do. There were times when it, I'm sure, seemed like an insurmountable cause.
Yes.
But you never wavered.
Well.
Never wavered in 13 years. And now that we have gun safety majorities in the legislature, they're looking to you for information and advice they can trust.
Yeah. Well,
on this. So
we're trying. We're working hard. We're working hard, and I know you are too. It's we have a lot more to do. I've been talking to your staff about some of our items on our wish list for 2021. You know, and open carry and concealed carry are both on there, and you know, we need to revisit the assault weapons ban and, you know, look more carefully at the militias. I know that's been something near and dear to your heart, and I think we can get more done on that.
Now, a new movement is growing in the state, which refuses to comply with new regulations, even if they're signed into law.
No more gun control. No more gun. This agency will not be part to the violation of, infringements upon, or our community's individual rights as it pertains to the United States Constitution.
Our deputies, our sheriffs are not going to enforce these laws.
These are local governments at the county level saying, no, we're not going to abide.
That was a really important point. 80-something counties out of our 95 counties in the whole entire state say that they're not going to enforce any of these laws. What's going to happen then? You know, so if we pass these laws and everybody ignores them, then all of a sudden these legislators are going to have to realize, like, wow, we don't actually have any power to enforce them. And how are we going to enforce them? We're going to send in the state police. There's only 700 state police, I think, in Virginia. We're going to send in the National Guard. You know, next thing you know, now you got a war on your hands.
On the next episode,
we will not be disarmed. You're not coming to take our guns. You're just not going to do it.
The backlash to gun laws gains momentum.
And it is, in fact, the very definition of insurrectionism. I don't like the law, so I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to use my gun to intimidate you.
Just as a new crisis unfolds across the country.
Gun sales right now are running about 5 times above normal.
5 times above normal.
Hey, thanks for checking out CBSN Originals on YouTube. If you want to watch more documentaries, download the free CBS News app on your phone, tablet, smart TV, or any streaming device. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking down here. Thanks for watching.